Thank you everyone for your patience while we work out all of our technical stuff. Thank you everyone for attending our chit chat about bug stuff. For those who have English as a second or perhaps even a fifth language, the term chit chat is just used for a casual conversation. Strictly, the dictionary meaning suggests that the content of a chit chat isn't very important or trivial, but hopefully our chit chat about bug stuff provides a bit more stimulation and interest than just ordinary gossip. So my name is Janine Malcolm and I am the co-founder of Mobius Farms. With my husband Chris, we farm black soldier fly in the beautiful Barossa Valley in South Australia. We have extensive experience in all aspects of BSF farming, and we love connecting and collaborating with smart people from all over the world, wanting to do things that are good for people and the planet. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Sofia Katzen. Sofia is the founder and manager of FlyMumma, a consultancy specializing in BSF nutrition, biology, and process optimization. Sofia brings years of expertise from food science and BSF farming to her clients from all over the world, not just Australia. Recently, Sofia was lucky enough to attend the BSF Con in Cambridge, London, and I'm really keen to hear what Chit Chat Sofia engaged in at BSF Con, and I'd like to invite her to speak and share with you her experiences. Thanks, Sofia.
Great. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. I'm going to share my screen. So please, Janine, tell me if it looks good.
Everyone can see Sofia's screen? How's that going?
It looks great.
It looks good?
Yes.
Cool. Excellent. Thanks, Sofia.
Good. No worries. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm going to talk today about the BSF Con, which was a conference held a month ago over 3 days, with the first day being purely industry related, with panels on financials, scaling markets, and emerging innovations. The location was amazing. It felt like the movies, like Howard's. And the second day was really a good mix from commercializing, regulation, lobbying, and research around nutrition, breeding, microbes, and finally the day three, which was really research driven. It covered a lot of things on insect health, genetics, and microbes plasticity. So we are seeing a lot of discoveries, which will drive the industry forward. And today I'm going to bring you some of the key takeaways and some further reading. And I will try to stick to the 8-minute timeline. So feel free, Janine, to stop me if I'm running over. Okay, so the industry days was really a full day of emotions. We learned a lot. The guys presenting cover how feed formulators really know the benefits already of black soldier flies. And Catherine Breyer from Biomarsh is the global marketing director. She really highlighted how insect meal it's much more than just protein. But of course, there are key non-negotiables for using the insect protein as mainstream. And one of them is that the nutrients has to be accessible. So this means that there is no anti-nutrients like the ones present in soybeans. Has to be pelletizable or pelletizability, which is not a good word to pronounce when English it's not your first language, but this means that it tolerates extrusion. And obviously sustainability, so low carbon emissions. The volumes that they need are enormous, and we are not quite there yet with the volumes. So they have the option or the need to mix different insect meals into a large pool and then formulate with that. But they found that it's a little bit tricky because, of course, we feed the larvae with different substrates all around the world. So the amino acid profile, the protein content in the insect meal, it's going to be different. And then to become mainstream, because formulating with different insect meals, it's tricky, they have spent some time in R&D to compensate for those inconsistency. So that has really slowed a little bit of the adoption. But having said that, there's really good news. I don't know if you can see on the screen, I put an article from Biomar in Ecuador. They are using the insect protein from InnovaFeed and they managed to replace fish meal with insect protein without compromising the price. So I think that's a huge milestone. And as an industry, we should be really celebrating loudly this huge news. And as Michen Pipan from Better Origins said that good news travel far, but bad news sometimes travel even further. So as an industry, again, let's highlight this huge news from replacing fish meal completely. It's in shrimp feed, something I forgot to say. And then something that we highlight in the meeting, in the conference that day, is that we always speak about collaboration. And I thought personally that they were trying to say collaboration between industry players, but actually the collaboration has to come really across the whole value chain, upstream, downstream, not just horizontally. So knowing your suppliers as well as knowing your customers and the real problems that they are faced. So we can bring solutions that truly work. Because the reality is that BSF it's a novel solution and there is still gaps. But it's important to be transparent with the rest of the supply chain to build credibility. So if we promise 5 tons of insect meal by the end of the month, it's important that from the industry we stick with those promises and we are not under delivering. Moving to the second point is that the UK now have a separated collection for organics at household level, which highlights the need for more organic waste solutions. And this was a surprise to me because I thought that they already had that implemented. In Australia, we have different organic collection streams, including a separate one for organics more than anything in the Victoria State and New South Wales and on the East Coast, but also since 2019 on Western Australia. So Australia, it's not behind after all. But in the UK and in Europe, many years ago, anaerobic digestion started being different and challenging. But now it's heavily subsidized, and therefore it's a competitive advantage versus insect farming. But really, at the conference, we were highlighting how BSF actually wins in the waste hierarchy because it brings value rather than just being a recovery methodology. Another key message was that in terms of financials, revenue stacking matters and the profit path has to be explicit early. Some businesses focused on insect protein, but really we can add insect protein plus the frass, which really in most of the cases is double the volume of insect meal. So it's something to have in mind. And maybe if we look backwards, it might have been incredibly ambitious to think that BSF can replace fully soy. Yes, from the research side, it is possible, but commercially, it's a little bit more challenging and not always feasible. And there are some other markets more addressable by BSF, usually, or more importantly, on the additives side of things. So the suggestion was to really spend time finding those niches and what serves for each region in the world. And really, in most of the panels, and something that caught my attention is that regulation was the number one key barrier to unlock the potential of mixed waste, particularly in the EU, where there is a lot of prohibited feeds. So takeaway for the Aussie fellows is that in Australia we're quite privileged to be able to feed a lot more things to BSF, including animal byproducts, and then introduce this insect meal into the supply chain for aquaculture specifically. Of course, it depends state by state, but aquaculture it's the market that we can all target. In Europe, again, they are over-regulated markets. So Steven Barbosa, the secretary from the IPEF, was saying that it's important that regulators have the ambition to solve future problems. And I'm going to talk about that in the next slides. Swapping a little bit to the technical side of things and substrate physics, it's what I'm going to talk now, and it was probably the best aha moment of the conference. Maybe this is a biased opinions because, of course, I come from the nutrition side of things, so this was really eye-opening. And I think we all know that too much heat or too little heat, it's not really good for the crates, but really, how do we achieve that sweet spot that allows good growth and high sieving efficiency? Well, we might need to stop treating texture as an afterthought. And rather than focusing on nutrients first and textures first, it's really the other way around because pore space controls oxygen. Oxygen controls microbial and larval activity. That controls temperature and moisture loss. So in the end, that controls harvestability. And I added one of the graphs there to see how the different bulk density can affect nearly 10 degrees difference if we maintain even all the nutrition. So adding cocoa peat, for example. This is amazing. And I added the pictures of Adrian and Martin, which are my new gods in BSF, because the work that they have done, it's amazing. So I highly recommend to go and look for this article that I show there. They also cover that the essential amino acids can be created from the microbes. So really, the microbes are driving the plane and not just like passengers. And some of the practical recommendations from Martin was that we can adopt methodologies from compost to quantify substrate metabolism. This is measuring substrate oxygen with compost CO2 sensors, which they can be found relatively cheap or affordable, and they are quite accurate. And also measure fermentation by products to track metabolic changes. Something that we all know is that there is a lot of variability in the feedstock, and that will, of course, affect the outputs. And that was a persistent topic in all the panels. And while I do agree, of course, because that's what I do as a consultant, I try to find consistency in all the variability. But it's like, how can we mitigate this, not just from a nutrition perspective, but also from the system we use? Are there technologies out there that can dissolve the inconsistencies? Maybe crates, kind of traps all that inconsistency. Maybe bigger crates or conveyor belts could do this job of diluting the inconsistencies. I think I'm going to pass this one, unfortunately, because of time. I'm going to cover again a little bit on the policy and regulation. So I want to highlight what GoTerra is doing, and everyone was amazed around the world. It's like they couldn't understand how in Australia we can really feed a lot more things to BSF. And again, I want to highlight that GoTerra, it's really unlocking the potential of waste. And because waste, it's like a nice buzzword and helps with sustainability, but it comes with a lot of challenges. Compostable packaging, contamination, and anything in between, really. And the pre-treatments and post-harvesting processes required to feed post-consumer waste to livestock in Australia. Again, because if you didn't know, we are probably one of the only places in the world that we can feed animal byproducts to the larvae and then introduce this into the supply chain. And of course, again, this is state dependent if you can feed it to pig and poultry as well, but the whole nation can sell the outputs to aquaculture and pet food. And Olympia also highlighted how we have an aging infrastructure, and we don't need to really open new landfills or new anaerobic digester. We just need to build something that will be game changers in the future. Again, also with regulation, it was great to hear that. So I have a little fly flying around me. So it was great to hear how more than ever now it's time for the EU regulators to learn from others to facilitate the transition to more circular economies by flexing the strict regulations and give Larvae access to a wider range of feedstock and really boost the industry. And something super important that we saw recently, Mobius is doing a great job with FRAS. So it's really the unexplored land of opportunities. We typically call it byproducts, but actually it's a product because we are producing, in most of the cases, double the amount of wet FRAS compared to wet larvae. So really what we have to do is a little bit of a perspective change and see how we can treat this frass as a great value add stream. And again, in the EU, they are quite over-regulated because they have to pasteurize at 70 degrees to be able to sell the frass. And maybe it just sounds like a small thing, but when we are talking about volumes and huge volumes, there is a lot of water that has to be going through that process. So there is a lot of electricity requirement. Therefore, it costs a lot of money to achieve that. So it's really hard sometimes to make number works on really these unfair grounds. How am I going for time?
You're okay. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
you're nearly at the finish anyway, so yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Okay, good, good. So I live here in the QR code. You can scan it for, I put the program, the key takeaways day by day, and a lot of pictures that I took from the conference. So if you're really interested, welcome to take a picture of this, scan the QR code, and also to read a little bit further. Again, collaborations are key to drive the industry forward. Recently, Mobius and Insect Biotech released a webinar on FRAS as well. Jean and Tony, which is a group on insect nutrition and insect IMP on insect genetics and health. They are looking for more researchers around the world so we can collaborate again. Um, and then one really important one that it's on the bottom left, it's the new push to unlock circular nutrition for livestock, sorry. So there are, oh, sorry, 8 EU industry groups that submitted a catalog of measures to the European Commission urging the removal of the regulatory barriers to feed circularity. Because again, now more than ever, it's the time to demonstrate that insect farming can be a great tool, not only for replacing proteins, but also as a waste management technique. And I think that's all for me. Thank you. Stop sharing.
Thank you, Sophia. That's amazing. There is so much in your presentation. Really, I have a page full of questions to be honest. But what I would encourage people to do perhaps is that if you do have questions that come to mind, just pop them in the chat and we'll try and answer them and distribute the responses to everyone here rather than sort of get too carried away. But I think my main takeaways from that, Sophia, was that yeah, there's whilst yes, bad news travels faster. I think there is the fact that the research and the information coming out of industry across the globe is really underpinning some confidence in the insect industry, not just in the insect protein space, but also, like you said, with the FRAS. And then, yeah, just great to see those researchers sharing those findings, like refocusing on substrate and different things. But I know there was one quick question. Perhaps you could give a definition, Sophia, just what you meant by anti-nutrients.
Yeah, so could be tannins. So they, or could be even like chitin, for example. So it doesn't allow the nutrient to be absorbed totally.
So it,
Yeah,
inter
so
it,
like
it,
some.
yeah, interferes with the bioconversion process, or it's something that's happening within the larva itself.
No, no, it's not for the larva, like for the fish, for
Oh,
example.
okay, understand.
Yeah, so in the fish feed formulation, if they have too many anti-nutrients, then the insect protein cannot be absorbed because it lowers the digestibility. In, let's say, food, for example, just quinoa. I don't know if people are really used to eating quinoa, but you are meant to really wash it first to remove the saponins. Yeah, so would be a similar example.
Okay. Yep. Great. I think that's really important that we, whilst there's a lot of big claims around what insect protein can do, I think it's always really important to understand the biology of the animals that we're also feeding. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
and that's why it's so important to the collaboration, again, not just like with industry players, but with everyone in the supply chain. So if we talk with feed formulators and really understand what are the pain points and what they are looking in the feed, then we can do some treatments to allow to feed to how do you say feed those gaps.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Great. 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 Thank you, Sophia. And I'll just bank the questions. And if we've got some time at the end, hopefully we can answer a few more questions. But thank you, Sophia. We will have this recording available because there was a lot in Sophia's presentation to go through. So probably want to listen to it a couple of times yet. I'll now like to introduce our second speaker, Dr. Lachlan Yee, who's smiling away in the top there. Dr. Yee is a lecturer and researcher in the Faculty of Science and Engineering at Southern Cross University. He's based at the Lismore campus in New South Wales. I'm sure you'll get a very quick sense of Dr. Yee's passion for the environment and for developing sustainable technologies that solve modern day problems. Most recently, Dr. Yee has become a little bit obsessed with the potential of black soldier fly larva, a black soldier fly and its larva to convert organic waste into valuable products, but also produce things like insect protein and chitosan. So I'm really grateful for this busy man to make time to talk to us about his recent trip to Lombok in Indonesia and what he learned about the BSF industry there. So thank you, Dr. Yee. I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Janine.
You're right. You're welcome.
Just checking that you're seeing the screen in full display now.
Yep, all good.
So, as Janine pointed out, I'm from Southern Cross University. I've been an academic here for 15 years, and my background is in plastics chemistry. However, I do have a passion for the environment, and I later on learned that I have a passion for waste. And in particular, I do not like to see wasted food. It actually causes me some pain when I see good food being swept off the table next to me in a restaurant and thinking what could be done better there. So, a colleague of mine pointed out that black soldier fly will eat that up and provide larvae for my chickens because I love fresh eggs. And away we went. So that was approximately 7 to 8 years ago. And now we've proudly got a black soldier fly farm that's operating here at Southern Cross University and has been kindly powered recently by Mobius Farms. Now, it's a good thing that Janine actually boarded my talk to Lombok, Indonesia. Otherwise, I would talk just about everything black soldier fly that we do here. So this was a trip we did in August. I came home from with my son competing for Australia in karate, and I took in 3 places in Lombok, the island of Lombok in Indonesia. So I wanted to present that to you today. Thank you very much for coming along and listening. So where is Lombok? Most people know where Bali is. It's a very famous tourist destination from Australia. So here's a map to orientate yourself to Bali if you don't know where that is. And Lombok is located just east of Bali. So it's the next island east. Apparently has active volcanoes. as well. So there's always the, I suppose, slight chance that you can have volcanic activity and earthquakes. Now, the places we visited in Lombok are located around this capital city of Lombok, which is Mataram there on the west coast, and in particular, Senkol, just to the south, which is near the airport. So the first place we visited uh, was in the regional area of Senkol, so just near the airport there. It's in the regions. And this is located on private land. So it's donated private land to the manager, BSF Senkol, and they've been operating for approximately 5 years now. And they service tourist resorts. So you can see here the bin up on the left, very clearly labeled to show where organic waste from these resorts will head to. And you can see some of the bins arriving there with various organic ingredients in them. And the platform in which the facility sits is high up on a hill. So they take advantage of gravity trickling down the leachate and also being able to sweep the compost and the frass straight off the platform onto these garden beds. And these garden beds are growing lettuce, which then gets sold back to these tourist resorts. So I think it's a beautiful example of circularity in practical use here. They also have these lovely Bali hut facilities up here for student accommodation. Of course, the farm is often run by students with the manager, and there's even a tea room and a lunch room and accommodation for a couple of people to overlook the farm. And one thing that caught my eye is using these little tea strainers to hatch eggs from in the nursery. So I'm employing some similar strategies with eggs that have been kindly supplied by Mobius Farms. So on to the second facility, and this contrasts well with the regional location. So now we're back into the almost the center of the capital city, Mataram. Now, to give you some idea of scope and size, Mataram capital is about the size of Canberra here, so very similar to our capital here in Australia. And so some 43 odd tons of waste arrive at this facility per day. And you can see here the front door of the facility. And despite these coloured bins that they have there in Mataram, most of the waste looks quite mixed. So the Indonesians take advantage of a readily available labour force, an accessible labour force. And so all of it heads up onto this concrete platform on the left here, you can see. And there's just people up there literally with tools, shifting waste around, breaking open bags, and moving them to the various points on this platform, mainly to separate out organics and non-organics. So you can see some conveyor belt action there happening to the rear of the facility. And if we zoom in, this is where all the non-organics end up. And I just wanted to highlight that plastics get siphoned off onto this rear conveyor. And you can see, if you pay attention to the right-hand side, there is a large industry extruder, compressor there as well. So, and they can manufacture these plastic bricks on site. So I call them adult-sized Lego bricks. And just the plastic waste gets utilized immediately, and these bricks get put on the outside of the facility for landscaping and path generation. However, to the left of that concrete platform is, of course, what you've come here to look at, which is the black soldier fly domestication. So This Indonesian word, penangkaran, maggot means domesticated or captive maggots. And so you can see just one little spout here is all the organic waste coming out into these trays or crates, as Sophia pointed out. So the first impression you get when you stand in this facility is literally Bunnings warehouse. So if you're familiar with Australia, we have these warehouses where you can get just about all the tools and materials for do-it-yourself jobs. But instead of homewares and tools, you just have crate after crate after crate of like soldier fly. And you can see here the instruments on the right. I recognize also from Mobius Farms operations. Is that right, Janine? They're these tumble dryers. And so,
That might be it. Yeah, it's not clear whether it's a dryer or a sieve there.
yeah, so they are dryers. And the sieving gets done by manual labor. Again, Indonesia able to tap into a very readily accessible labor force. And apparently they dry with sand in here, Janine. So you can see some of the dried maggots and
Yeah.
sand mixed
And
together
the
there.
sand gets reused as well. So yeah, it just
Mm,
keeps getting round and round. But gas is cheaper than electricity, I think, from talking to my Indonesian counterparts.
yes, yeah, and you can see this one's wired up for gas. So they also have conventional ovens here. As I understand, they can process baked goods, but they were also here. And you can see leaning up against the oven there, one of these hand sieves that we saw several gentlemen vigorously working away there. They get their fitness while they do their work. And then outside the facility, you get more of this beautiful texture. So Indonesia really embrace their waste facilities and make them look very beautiful. You saw the front of the shed there with artistry. Here is the rear. They're collecting rainwater and the frass and some leachate just gets shifted straight out to the garden beds. So again, as a single site and demonstration of circularity, they can see they're growing some of their favorite papaya here, apparently. And then if you pay close attention down the bottom, you can see those plastic bricks getting laid. So that's the second facility we went to. And then the third facility, it's kind of like a hybrid and apparently one of the very early on facilities that were established late in the teens. So I think somewhere around the 2017, 2019, when there was a big push by a Swiss group to include Indonesia and collaborate on black soldier fly farming. So this is TPST Regional Lingsa. Just TPST is Indonesian for Integrated Waste Processing Site. And this is kind of like just on the perimeter of the city. And it shows that it was established early on. But you can see that it's excellent facilities. Some of the largest rearing shelters we were able to see of the three facilities. And they call it a bioreactor, but this is where all the food gets placed down, or organics, and the larvae added. Now, interestingly, the this facility has a very large capacity, but it was underutilized, and so it seems like it's in prime shape for an up and coming new Colombo plan bid that the university has put in for to bring across students to work with the Indonesians, get that cross culture experience, and then also run some really neat experiments on what appears to be a ready-made field lab. So just a little bit of a plug because I love working for Southern Cross University, and they also kindly asked that I do a little bit of a plug. So Southern Cross University, a very young university, born in 1994, so we're only 30 years old. And just today, we cracked into the top 500 universities of the world. So in terms of ranking, so apparently we're punching above our weight. And you can see our campuses located mainly on the Gold Coast and Northern Rivers, and Coffs Harbour, with some satellite campuses in other major cities. This is our demographic, and interestingly, we see a strong shift towards online learning now. So a majority of our student base is in online learning, with the second largest cohort being on the Gold Coast, probably being attracted by the fact that the airport is like 5 minutes walk from our campus, and we're also campus is located in a major city in the Gold Coast there in southeast Queensland. Just wanted to acknowledge that I'm part of the Zero Waste Research Cluster here at the university. And that cluster is all about bringing researchers, no matter what faculty, to the goal of managing waste here in Australia and with our overseas collaborators. I wanted to point out the important work of Risa Otake. She just handed her master's thesis in today, literally today, and her thesis is on dietary control for the black soldier fly, mainly in the 5-day-old larvae phase, as well as the main diet post 5-day-old larvae, and what effect that has on chitin quality and yield. She's just submitted that. Wanted to also point out the great work of Dr. Owen Hogan here. He's in the Faculty of Business. We also have Professor of Entomology, Nigel Andrew, and then we wouldn't be where we are without the kind of funding provided by, under the leadership of Professor Mary Spongberg, Senior Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research. And then further acknowledgements. It's very hard to achieve all of this, what we do here at Southern Cross, and being able to go to places like Indonesia and visit other farms. So we have a group in Southern Cross, we have a group in Indonesia, Lombok, and then of course there's Janine. Couldn't say more about Janine and how friendly and open she's been with collaborating with us here at Southern Cross, and we look forward to a really prosperous relationship together. We have several grants and bids in to expand and improve on research and facilities. Thank you for listening. Happy to answer any questions.
I'll pay you in bagels later, Lachlan. Well done, buddy. That was really awesome. It's so like to vicariously travel the world and see other BSS farms. It's just so exciting. It really because the Australian industry, for those who don't know, is really small. We kind of all know each other, and sometimes, yeah, it does feel like you're just talking to the same people all the time. So yeah, it's really lovely to sort of get an insight into the enthusiasm and passion for the industry overseas. Just a quick question, Lachlan, we've got time. I just, you talked about that last facility and underutilization. Can you
Sure.
talk a little bit more about why that might be and whether the people that you met kind of disclosed what some of the other main barriers to, scaling or broader adoption or replicating what they were doing?
Look, I actually don't know. It might be a seasonal thing. I wasn't able. We literally had less than 9 minutes to look at that facility because I was keeping the Dean of International Affairs at the university waiting. He was looking to collaborate with Southern Cross University. Look, I can only look if you put me on the spot and had to make an educated guess. It would probably be because they're supporting their large facility in the city, TPST Sandubaya, and probably a lot of the organic waste is going there because of the ease in which they have the trucks and the people to just sort it out. There seemed to be a caretaking crew at the Lingsar facility, but I really don't know much more they want to rebuild or renovate. Only that we have our Indonesian researcher, so Ada, and we also have her colleague here, Aula, so who is actually in the chat room. But Ada just recently did interviews of these black soldier fly facilities. So we're looking to publish that work, and that's under ethical guidelines at the moment. So I don't believe I can divulge all of that information just in this public forum. I need to be careful how that's disseminated. But all I can say is that if people are very keen to listen to the answer of your question, um, Janine, they can wait for the publication, which we aim to publish at the end of this year.
Excellent. I'm sure we can keep people in the loop. Lachlan, there's another question there, which is, the opportunity for recycling those plastics to make trays for growing the
Yeah,
BSFL.
precisely. Yes, yeah. There is no limit to the imagination on recycling plastics. We're here creating lighter concrete on campus, and that's with a multi resin plastic recycled mix. So it's we're only limited by imagination, and then we have some wonderful researchers that are there. I have a student starting in a month's time that's going to work on the fire retardancy of these recycled polymers. Because as you can imagine, with some applications, we need to be mindful of the flammability of plastics. So yeah, great suggestion by the that person with the question. Yeah, it's just being creative with your circular goals.
Yep, great. Please, if we've got a few, I'll take a few more minutes to ask some questions. Sophia, I might go back to yours because there is a couple that we sort of skipped over. One of them was around tracking CO2 in the substrate. So you talked about using some fairly available compost monitoring sensors. So can you just talk a little bit about what some of the key indicators are that you might be looking for? We'll just unmute you.
Yes, yes. I realized I was muted. So at the beginning of like when we see the 5-day-old larvae, and that's when we have lots of feedstock, at that time it's important to track oxygen because that will tell us about like the texture, the porosity, the bulk density of the substrate. And towards the end, so when we harvest on day 6, day 7, there is not going to be much oxygen. Or I mean, oxygen won't tell us much, but carbon dioxide will be telling us when it's at the highest peak, that's the highest growth, and that's also when there is more ammonia in the system. So to answer your question, both, one at the start and one at the end.
Yep, great. There was two more, Sophia, if you've got a minute. This one was about I think Nikki was talking about the concept of using animal-based black soldier fly larva feed substrates. So how in Australia you were saying that we use animal byproducts in our feed, and how this might affect market acceptance of insect-based pet food. So were people concerned about the perceived risk by the public that we were using animal byproducts in our feed substrate?
I didn't hear anyone discussing this part, so I guess most of the animal-based insect feed probably it's going more to aquaculture, where yeah, there is a little bit of less of a concern.
And that leads into the next question, and I had two questions around this, and one was around the talk of the quantity of material needed to supply the aquaculture industry. So whilst it's great, we've got a green light from the likes of BioMar and Skredding, is there talk about like how the industry might start aggregating? Again, I think you sort of referenced that there's concerns about how do we equalize or create quality standards so the end buyer gets some consistency there.
Sorry, what was the
Yeah,
question?
so around, we've got aquaculture who need volume, but we've
Yes.
got a very still a growing industry. So was there some talk about how the industry might sort of collaborate to meet that demand?
Yeah, I guess BioMar was talking more about that topic, and what because they know that they can't really access big volumes. I guess they changed the mindset from like insect protein will be a one replacer for fish meal, but actually maybe we can replace other additives in the fish food that we can replace. So in that case, then we need a less volume because it's only, like 1 or 2% rather than like 20% that you're including.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because that's something that's really just shifted in the last probably 5 or 6 years, I'd say, that sort of focus. Um,
Yeah, yeah, they were biomite really highlighting again, like insect protein, it's not just one ingredient.
mhm.
They are looking at the nutrients that it brings. And it's the fatty acid, lauric acid, all the other unsaturated fatty acids that bring a lot of other properties that it's not just the bulking agent.
Yeah, yeah. Great. We've got Daisuke from New Zealand, and is asking the question about if there are any other BSF companies following goTerra's bioconversion of municipal food and organic waste. Any change in public perception of BSF following goTerra's success? Yep.
Well, we do have another one, Arc Ento, on the
Hmm.
east coast of
Yep.
Australia as well. And from what I know, they have installed some like annex to landfill sites to use mixed municipal waste.
Yep.
Yeah, and there is yeah, so in Africa and Egypt, and I think I can't remember where else, but there is a lot more mixed municipal waste uses. Yeah, but at this stage, there is even competition in some places. I think Chansey is the company in Kenya that it's another one to watch if you are interested in mixed municipal waste.
Yep. Um, and and Faris, that's a great question, and I think we might address that in a separate presentation because we have a connection to BSF processors who are specifically working on the bioconversion of olive oil mill um, waste streams. So I'd love to sort of spend a little bit more time responding to that one, perhaps in a future presentation. So I'd like to close out and thank both Dr. Yee, Lachlan Yee, and Sofia for being the guinea pigs of our first chit chat about bug stuff. Hopefully, everyone kind of found it really interesting. And as I said, we will endeavour to try and wrap up a recording and put it out there to make it available. But in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We're all on LinkedIn in some capacity or form, or just contact Mobius Farms and we'd be happy to redirect you to the right people. So thanks, everyone. I know you're all busy and appreciate you being here. Thanks again. See you.
Bye bye. Thanks, Janine.
You're
Cheers
welcome.
all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.